Okay, welcome to this meeting of full council for Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council, being held here at Newton Leeds Pavilion on the 12th of November 2024. I am Nathaniel Kelly Wilson and I will be chairing this meeting. Before we start, there are some housekeeping points to note. We are not expecting a fire drill, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave as quickly as possible. Fire exits are at the front and the screen, and the fire assembly point is at the other end of the car park. The toilets are located behind us. Please could you turn off your mobile phones or put them to silence. We want everybody to be able to hear, so please respect whoever is speaking by not chatting amongst yourselves. Also, you should be aware that this meeting is being recorded and the recording is being streamed on our social media channels. We are especially pleased to welcome members of the public here tonight, and I think they're just here for the co-option item, but of course welcome throughout the meeting. This is a formal meeting and it will be conducted according to our standing orders. This means that members of the public may only make representations for a maximum of 3 minutes, and this is to allow us to complete all of our business. The meeting will be held entirely in public, except if there are any agenda items where it may be necessary to exclude members of the public because of commercial confidential information or commercial sensitivity. Are there any items?
No, not
okay. So we do not anticipate that we will have to do that. Okay, many thanks. If we could go to the agenda, please, and item 1, which I believe is apologies for absence.
I haven't received any apologies for absence.
And then item 2, are there any councillor declarations of interest in matters on the agenda? No. Okay. Item 3, to approve the draft minutes of a meeting on Tuesday the 8th of October 2024 for council. I don't propose to go through the minutes because I think councillors have had them before this meeting, and if everybody agrees, we will just take them as read and that you are happy for me to sign them as a true and accurate record of the meeting. Everybody agreed? Agreed. Thank you. And then also going on to item 4, the draft minutes of the meeting of Tuesday the 29th of October 2024 of the Employment Policy Committee. Well, we agreed that they are noted and can be signed by the chair. Oh, sorry, just noted by the committee. Yeah, everybody agreed that they can be noted. Yes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public speaking, but I think everything is to be covered under item 6, perhaps, which is the agenda item for option.
Yes, nobody has requested the opportunity to speak or send any representations at this stage.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is to note a casual vacancy in Manor North and Eton Leeds ward and make arrangements for filling the seats. Mark, if you want to update us.
Yes, so unfortunately the member for Manor North and Eton Leeds ward has failed to attend a meeting of the council for 6 consecutive months and is therefore disqualified from office through non-attendance. So I have brought this to the attention of the council tonight and notified Milton Keynes City Council tonight. So the situation now will be that a notice will be published and residents will have the opportunity to demand an election. If 10 residents demand an election will be held. If not, the council will be free to co-opt. Unfortunately, the councillor who has become disqualified was one of the councillors who had stood for office at the last election, and therefore we've lost one of our quota of elected councillors. So in many ways it would be beneficial for the council if the vacancy was filled via election rather than co-option, but it still wouldn't give us a sufficient quota for general power of competence, I'm afraid. It's just for noting there's nothing for council to do.
So we will note that, and perhaps councillors can have a conversation about any particular people in the local community, particularly Manor North and Eton Leeds, that might be willing to kind of come onto the council. So can we have a quick chat afterwards, David? We'll go on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 7, to consider candidates for co-option to the town council, and if the co-options take place, to receive any declarations or acceptance of office and election to committees.
Yes, if I could just mention that Ray Brady, who is one of the candidates for co-option tonight, has telephoned earlier today and advised that he's not able to attend the meeting after all today, and he has asked if his application for co-option could be considered next town council meeting in January, and I've explained that I'll put that to council tonight.
Any comments or questions? I am not really in favour of deferring items and not deferring items for that long. Personally, I would propose that we respond saying if he wants to make a fresh application in January for a response, but I would like to deal with the co-options tonight rather than deferring any item. And also we have 2 other people here that are here for co-option and made it. So that's how I would propose that we would deal with that if I have a seconder.
A second.
So any other, so all those in favour of that proposal? Any abstentions? And anyone against? Okay, so that is 1 abstention. Okay. The next person on the agenda, so the first person on the agenda is Ray Blackman-Stagg, Fenny Stratford ward. You will have 3 minutes to talk to the council about your reasons for wanting to join the council, and then after that I'll open the floor to other councillors to ask some questions, and then the council will make its decision. So just could you keep them outside? Okay, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Obviously, I'm Ray Blackman. My intention was to join, or hope to join, the council to provide a local representation for the area that I live in, which is essentially Fenny Stratford. I'm very keen on making the environment better for all people. Also keen on making life better and easier for disabled people and other vulnerable citizens. I'm quite active with the anti-parking in the Bletchley, particularly Queensway area. Have a Facebook group on there trying to stop the antisocial car park, pavement parking, which is dangerous for the public and certainly dangerous for those with mobility issues. Also social, antisocial behaviour, which I think is increasing within the area, and also to promote further police presence.
Yeah, for everything. Do any members have any questions?
I met Ray on the when he had his placard up at the stopping traffic, it was stopping parking on Queensway. It was 100% successful. I don't know what happened after you left. But yes, but I thought it was extremely effective, and congratulations on doing that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
So Ray, as a councillor, we all afford a bit of time to sort of like events and things like that. What's your availability for coming to meetings, being proactive in the community, and what you will do for the community in general? Because it's a big ward, very big ward. I know you'll be down in Fenny Stratford, but there's a massive ward of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford. What would you ideas or anything that you bring to the table that's going to help all of the community?
Well, I certainly think that with the parking issue in particular, that's not solely Fenny Stratford and Bletchley, and it, particularly outside schools, the danger to school children is one that I think the public themselves can be encouraged to deal with, and I'd be happy to play my part in that. I've got availability. I no longer work. So
Yeah.
I mean, as a council, we've got policies, procedures, standing orders, all that sort of stuff. And as a council, full council, we actually promote, stuff in the community. There are strategies out there regarding parking from MKC. There's the new parking strategy coming very, very soon. That we will be abreast of, or I understand what's going on with the parking. There's various things going on that you have to get in tune with, and so as a body, we all vote in a certain direction, and as a councillor, that's down to you to promote that within inside the community. Is that something that we all play our part individually? We all have got our own ideas on what should happen, but as a council, we have to be united as one approach and bring things to the council. Do you know what I mean? So
sure.
Is that something that you think that you can?
Well, I think that's very much like in business life. There's a party line that has to be followed. But I don't believe in political parties, and I certainly don't follow political party lines. So yeah, I'm happy to when a council collectively agree on something. I'll be quite vocal in my opposition, if necessary, in council, but outside, if the view would be party line.
So, Ron.
Yeah, even though we have council meetings, this, that and the other, and obviously I know the rain, would you be prepared to go to residents' meetings as well to hear what residents are saying? Because as it's a big area, you won't get the full gist of what's really other things, other than parking and things like that. People have other problems that
Absolutely,
you have to deal with. So you'd be okay for extra meetings like that? Yeah.
Any other questions? I think we've had a couple of comments shared online, and I think that you've been fine, but you've been very dogmatic about kind of all the issues in Bletchley and want something done. A question that I would ask of all new councillors is: this councillor signed up to a philosophy and belief around civility and respect in meetings, and are you happy to sign up to that? And we don't want to discourage kinds of people being in meetings and actually giving opposition, or but it's about it being done in an open, respectful way. So want to make sure that you are happy to sign up to that policy.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions? No. Okay. So, sorry, Ish.
Just want to touch on one of your points that you mentioned about antisocial behaviour and policing. I'm keen to just get you to elaborate on that a little bit in terms of what you see in terms of the issues for antisocial behaviour and sort of how you would, in an ideal world, sort of approach them.
Approach as an individual, or approach as a more bigger group?
I think both as an individual, but also in terms of as a council, the council.
I think it depends on what specifically antisocial behaviour is, but certainly with areas like Leon Rec, where there's a lot of drinking going on, despite the area being told it's a non-drinking area, and there's a notice issued by the police. The police never attend, so it's never picked up. You left behind with a strewn alcohol cans, bottles, etc. And genuinely litter in there. It's atrocious. Now, whenever I've seen it, and I've seen the culprits, and that's the hard thing, is actually seeing the culprits. So, for example, I see people sitting on a bench drinking with a tin of lager next to them. And next time we come around or we walk around the area, the tin of lager is still there, but the drink is gone. If I see that, I would and I see the individual, I would normally draw to their attention to how much proximity there is of a bin. You don't have to move far for a bin, certainly not in Little Brick. I've come across teenagers setting fire to the bins and have addressed the matter. I've photographed the culprits and put them to Facebook, into social media. So I'm quite happy to challenge that type of behaviour where I'm in a position to challenge it.
So, as a councillor, there's always lots of difficult decisions to make, priorities, constraints. Sometimes things happen a lot slower than you would like. How would you deal with that in terms of those different priorities, competing demands, and sometimes not being able to always achieve what you want to achieve? How would you respond to that?
Well, not achieving what you want to achieve doesn't mean you give up, certainly. So you might not get it this time, but you can continue the fight. And I think if it's what people want, then you have to champion it. If it's what you want, it's irrelevant. But it's what the people want, what the public want, that's what you have to champion. And that's what I hope that I will do, is when the public are saying it, and I come back to the parking, the public are saying people need to do something about the parking. And I've seen minutes of meetings going back to 2011 where that was coming up, and members of Milton Keynes Council have not been, and still are, not dealing with the issues.
Can I follow
Yes.
that? So you mentioned about the public, which is good, but sometimes you've got a decision where actually it can appear that one thing is, but you've got two competing demands, both of them which are important to the public, and some of them, sometimes they've got stronger arguments or not so strong arguments, but how would you deal with those two things where actually they're both wanted by the public, but they can't both be achieved?
Well, I need a specific example to work with that. Just a hypothetical thing that says you can't do this and a hypothetical thing says you want it. It's very hard to actually give you an answer to.
Yeah.
So if we were faced with the decisions that we've had to make in this council, like what services are we going to keep, what services are we going to cut because of budget constraints or whatever the situation may be, we have to cut something. So what would you cut? Free swimming or citizen voice? Which is both poignant in the community, both in the community, but we can only have one. And it's a bit contentious. Something like that.
Okay, so with that as an example, I certainly need to understand more about the actual issues. And once I understood, off the top of my head, I would say citizens' advice is important. How well used is the swimming? I don't know. And I know that goes for, I think it's over 60s, isn't it? I think. And if it's well used and people are using it, and if it's funding issue, maybe there can be subsidised funding and maybe looking at an alternative answer.
Does that answer your question?
I think Councillor Hume is perhaps more interested in how you would go about it rather than the specific issue itself, and maybe the thinking process that you would go through in order to kind of decide where it might lie. And yeah, I don't know if I've taken words out.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Right, do you want to say something about that?
Well, I think I need to understand the situation further, and I would need to have full facts about it. You can't make a decision based on just one person or a view. You have to see the facts behind it.
Okay. Any other councillors want to ask a question before we move on? Okay. Does anybody wish to propose that we or alternatively make another proposal?
Okay.
So a seconder? Okay. So all those in favour of co-opting Ray, there's two, Ray Blackman to Fenny Stratford ward. All those in favour? Anybody against? And any abstentions? Okay, so that's carried with 3 abstentions. So if you wish to sign the acceptance of office, then you will become a councillor immediately in the meeting this evening as a councillor. Thank you. Next on the agenda, and please correct me if I didn't pronounce it properly, is Uday Christian Iwu Agli. Yes? Iwu Agli. Okay, thank you.
You did well.
So you wish to stand for either Eton North Ward or Eton South Ward, so that's in the Lakes Estate. Do you want to speak for up to 3 minutes on the reasons why you want to join the council?
Okay. Good evening, all. My name is Uday. I live in Newton Lees, just down the road from there. Well, I've just come back from staff conference in Nottingham. I just finished working for Coventry Council, and I'm doing the work for Nottingham for the new East Midlands Combined Authority. I knew I was coming to this meeting, and I picked something from that conference, and it says social isolation. We were discussing about the issues that the people need, you know, and what are the things that are like obstacles. And the main thing that came up in my table was social isolation, you know, the lack of community cohesion, you know, engaging people, you know, communication with neighbors, living with your neighbors, finding out if everybody is okay. And this is leading to a lot of mental issues. For full declaration, I'm a member of the Labour Party, and I'm part of my local Labour, Bletchley and Buckingham. And I'm a member of St. Francis White Church. And as part of my activity and part of my faith, I really engage in things that we do in church that impact the life of our local community, especially the people around the Lake Estate. So in the church, we have things like the Community Ladder program and Soup for the Soul. And this has really opened my eyes in terms of, you know, meeting with local people, with our people, and people who have different experiences, different needs. And I find time during my lunchtime sometimes to go in and help out and engage with people and find out what the issues are. And also, during the election campaign, I've gone out canvassing, knocking on doors with our members. And after the election, I've gone out a few times with our local MP, Callum, knocking at doors, finding out what the issues are with people. And a lot of things I hit at the doorstep really has given me the passion to, you know, work in my local community to help people, especially around mental health problems and things that contribute to it, cost of living problems. And
So
most times,
do you want to finish up there?
yes, so just most times listen to people and see how we can help people, you know, improve their lives.
Brilliant. Thank you. So do we have any questions for the applicant? Marie?
Hi, I'm Lakes Estate also, big part of the community on the Lakes Estate. You've put in your thing, you're passionate about making changes in my community and will do my best to achieve little changes that will impact my community in various ways. Now, as you live on the Lakes, on Newton Lees,
Yeah.
and you say my community, but you're going for the Lakes Estate, how do you see yourself doing this minus take away the church? So take away the fact that you go down to the local water eating church. I know all about the larder and the soup for soul and everything. How will you improve the lives for people, for residents that live on the Lakes Estate?
So taking into consideration that I'm quite new in the area, and I would not claim that I know Lake Estate very well, but I do go to the gym at the Lyon School and watch football there as well. So I've been able to meet, apart from the church, a few people there. Once I've gone to the shops at the back and seen the conditions there, but the regeneration is happening now. But for me, as a new councillor coming in to, work for and represent the people, the most important thing for me to do will be to show my presence, meet people, and listen.
How will you do
And
that?
listen.
Do you know how you will do that?
It's by being available. If there are any events happening there, to be there, to interact with the people, find out what their needs are, and bring up those issues in the meetings.
Okay. Anyone else got a question? Terry?
You seem very busy. Do we have the time to dedicate sort of community counselling? Because I see you do a lot of leaflet dropping there, you go to the larder, etc. Do we have enough time to support community events? So we need counselling who do.
Yeah, I've thought through it, and we'll be determined to commit time.
Good.
towards doing that.
We need help so we can get.
Okay. Anyone else want to ask a question? Okay. Okay, so does anyone wish to propose Uday for co-option to the council? Yes? Okay, is there a seconder? I'm guessing you'll like second for that. Okay, all those in favour of co-opting Uday to the council? Anybody against? And any abstentions? That's carried with one against. Two against, sorry. So you will be co-opted to the council, and if you sign your declaration of office, you can take part in the meeting tonight for the councillor.
John, could I ask if you'd like to consider election to committees? As you know, we've been working on a slightly different scheme of delegations and committee structure. We haven't really got any room on the community and environment committees, it seems, at the moment. But then we've also got a full complement of finance. So there is an agenda item later on to look at do the committee structure next year. I'm assuming you want to continue as we are this year, and I suggest that if candidates wish to join the committees, if newly co-opted members wish to join either of the committees, then one option that's open to you is to change the number of seats and if that's what you're minded to do.
So, do you are you aware of the committees that we've got both of you, and do you have any preference for either of the committees that we have available, which is the Community Environment?
The Community Environment Committee and the Finance and Governance Committee.
Do you have any preference?
I
would love you to join the Finance and Governance, and I'm sure our finance manager is on the screen tonight. I'm sure she would also like the support of a qualified accountant in finance and governance. You say there's no space in the committee.
Well, there's no space on community environment, but you could just add to the number of seats if you wish to do that. Okay. So it's a matter for you.
So where you've not expressed a preference, but I think where would the parking be discussed?
Community and environment.
So is that something that you'd like to perhaps consider? Okay, so I will propose that Uday is appointed to the Finance and Governance Committee, and I will propose that Ray is appointed to the Community Environment Committee. And if we do not have any spaces, that we raise the number of seats by one on each, so that they can be admitted. Do I have a second? All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? That is carried unanimously.
A quick question, Chair. Ray will go on both if he so chooses, if he wants.
Okay.
You know that. You can go on both committees if you want.
I'm happy with it as it is here.
Okay, lovely. Next item on the agenda is to consider revision of Town Council scheme of delegations for the financial year 2025 to 2026 and a potential calendar for the same.
Yes, it's come to that time of year when we would normally publish next year's calendar, and the issue that I've got with that is, are we going to revert to the previous scheme of delegations with two committees, one for community, one for environment, finance and governance and employment policy? Are we going to revert to that in May after the annual meeting? The reason that we changed the committee structure this year was because after the elections we had an insufficiency of candidates, and it was considered very onerous for the council members to manage the number of meeting attendances. Or do you wish to continue with the combined community and environment committee? From my point of view, I don't feel that's working as well as having the two separate committees, but that's my point of view as an officer. It was easier, I think, to cope with the issues in two separate committees, because they aren't always very aligned with each other. So it's a matter of you. I mean, you don't have to decide now. You can decide. You know, you will be reviewing the scheme of delegations at the annual meeting next year in May, but it's helpful to have an indication now, because we've got to produce the calendar and make the arrangements for all the meetings going forward.
Before I open that up for debate, I'd be really interested to hear from the chair and vice chair of that committee about what they feel, you know, whether they would want to continue as a combined committee or for that to be split into.
I'd be interested in what the issues are, why it wouldn't be stay as it is. I'd be interested in what the issues are, why it wouldn't stay as it is.
Because we've had too much business at times, we've had too much business and things have had to be dropped off to enable the committee to go ahead as it is. And we haven't, it hasn't kind of, I don't know why, it just hasn't worked with the meeting cycle. Also, one of the reasons that we have the committee structure is to allow officers and councillors to have experience of clerking and chairing committees respectively, and by reducing the number of committees you're reducing the opportunity to do the succession development, so that you've got one fewer chairs, and you've got fewer opportunities for clerking. So it's just the way the system worked before. John clerked the community committee, Will was clerking the environment committee. The issues were more, you know, I think the meetings were shorter.
You might struggle with people then, because there'd be more meetings in the calendar.
Well, it was working perfectly well until the elections, when we didn't have sufficient candidates. But if it was working for members and members wish to continue as it is, then that's absolutely fine. And we'll set the calendar up on that basis.
Problems, do you? I don't see what the problem is.
Any other councillors wish to make a comment?
I'm not part of that committee, but I would have thought that if taking the staff point of view, is that if you split the committee, you've got another committee going, and you're back on your workload problem again.
Yeah.
It just, yeah, I mean, there are strings and roundabouts, there's pros and cons in both, you know. You know, I'm delighted not to have another evening meeting to come to, but yeah.
I think if people are struggling to go through the agenda, I haven't seen experience in that.
Well, that's down to the chair, make it faster.
Things have not been put on the agenda because of the way that the calendar worked, I think. I think it needs a bit more thought in terms of when the meetings are, in terms of the specific deadlines that there are, or specific pieces of work.
My concerns with lots more meetings or lots more committees is the lack of people coming to these committees. Even though we've got a full complement of councillors around the table now, my big problem is we've got councillors, but yet we haven't got enough members coming to make these decisions that have to come back to full council. And I'm getting a bit bored of coming to meetings and there's only 1, 2. I make myself available. I work the same way as everybody else around this room. I do about 3 or 4 jobs and I still make my time to come to council. I still make my time to, because I've committed to the process of being a councillor. And I'm getting a bit annoyed that we've got a full complement of councillors and there's only the same few councillors that turn up to meetings and make these decisions. And it's not fair on the clerk, the staff and the chair and the vice chair making the time for the rest of the council not to attend. And we need to sort this out as a council. So if you're going to commit to the process of being on a committee, show up to the meetings. Or what's the point? That's what I'm going to say.
Okay, anyone else wish to talk?
There's one other point that I did mean to make earlier on and that I didn't make, and that's the planning cycle. Obviously, we've got to respond to planning applications within 2 weeks. So when you had 2 meetings per month, so in 1 month there would be full council, next month there would be finance and governance, and then there would be one of either community or environment. That meant we had 2 meetings in each month, which made it easier to accommodate the planning timetable. So that was one of the reasons that I think that it was better that way. However, what you could do to get around that is review the scheme of delegations for planning applications and consider more delegated officers for that.
We don't want to give you more work as well, though. That's the thing.
Well, it does make less work if there are fewer meetings, obviously, and it's less demand on councillor time, which means that there's more time for those councillors to do other things that are contributing to the council that are not meetings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I am indifferent. I just think it worked. I do think from a practical point of view, it worked a bit better before.
So do councillors wish to make a decision on this tonight, or would they want to think about it some more? Ron?
Well, I think the way it is, as you said, it swings and roundabouts. With the planning, obviously you could send to each councillor an email and then we can send it back like we've had before. We've done that before.
No, we can't make decisions like that.
They wouldn't respond anyway.
I've had some come through and I've just put no comment or yes, I'm a bit concerned.
It's that email is only going to you to ask you if you wish. That email is saying that an officer will be responding on those emails, and if you don't want an officer to respond on those emails, you need to say, I would like that planning application to a committee meeting. So I'm not asking for comments in that email. That's not what we're asking for, because that's not a lawful way of making decisions on planning.
No, but I would say that would ease the planning a little bit by carrying on doing it that way.
Is that has been working as far as I can see.
I think the answer is we need more time.
Yeah.
No, we're the community. We
Well,
want
I'm in
more
favour of
time.
leaving the committees as they are. And if it means more delegation of planning, I'm totally in favour of that. I mean, if we can't trust the staff to do those planning issues, then what the hell are we planning? But that's what I think the committee structure as it sits works. I take totally what Dealer is saying, but it reduces the number of meetings. And I remember one time we used to have so many meetings. We had a meeting and that the decisions we reached hadn't been acted by the time we had the next one. So it was absolutely a farce. So I think that if we
So should the way forward be, I mean, it's not for me to make suggestions, but perhaps if we produce the calendar on the basis of the existing system, and then if it comes to May and we've had a change of heart, we'll have to review the calendar at that point.
Yep.
That's
So I just think this council has got a lot of business and a lot of things that need its attention. Got a lot of things going on in the community. We've got a lot of things that we've got neighbourhood plan, we've got Kickball House, we've got lots of stuff that we've got to finish off as a council, and it needs our attention. Absolutely needs our attention.
Okay. So was that a proposal?
Yes, please, Chair, yeah.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Terry? Okay, all those in favour of the proposal that we will keep things as they are,
for the
and
calendar.
we will consider some more delegated powers for certain planning applications for intent officers. Personally, I would still want to see that there was some consultation before there is the response.
Yeah.
And if you're happy to kind of accept that. So all those in favour of that proposal? Anybody against? Any abstentions? I believe that is carried unanimously. Okay. So we are now on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 9, to review and comment on planning applications due to be considered by Milton Keynes City Council. So item 9.1, 2401-984/FQL, Stark Drive, Newton Lees, Milton Keynes. I believe that this is the construction of Stark Avenue, Stark Drive to adoptable standards. So I'm guessing this is the road that leads to Taylor Wimpey's site, and they're going to build houses in the field opposite Taylor Wimpey, and it is not currently compliant for adoption. But the new road of houses cannot be adopted unless the road that it comes off is adopted. So that's what they're doing. I think this is probably something that we don't need to comment on, but other members.
It's been put on the agenda for that very reason, to draw your attention to that. That is what the situation is, as you've just explained, rather than for.
So if anything, as a Newton Lees councillor, I support adoption of all the roads as soon as possible. So I maybe would propose that we support the adoption. If I have a second, all those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? I think that is carried unanimously. Okay. Next, 9.2, PLN 2024/2061, 27 Denby Road, Bletchley, MK11DT, demolition of existing warehouse, building 4, and replacement with new single-storey warehouse. Any comments? So all members happy with no comment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that we will make no comment in regard to that. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 10, to review and approve financial reports. I think that we have the finance manager on the line. Ali, is there anything you wanted to say to us?
Can you hear me, first of all? No? Oh.
Trying. You think it's trying?
AI Alison.
Can you hear me? No?
With a mic.
She's on mute, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
No, she's not, but it's not working still.
Maybe she's
Alison and I have discussed these reports, and if you've got any questions, I will try to answer them if we can't make contact with Alison. I haven't got anything in particular to draw to your attention. Alison didn't specify to me anything that she wished brought to the attention of the committee.
Okay. Any members got any comments or questions about the finances? Okay. Ali, I don't know if you want to try logging out and logging in again and seeing if that can update anything for you. We can't hear you.
She's followed you.
Okay. Okay. So item 10.1, does anybody have any comments about the summary financial report showing income and expenditure? No? So we're happy to note that. All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. Next item on the agenda is list of payments made or due to be made at council before the next meeting of the Finance and Government Committee for ratification. So any member wants to ask any questions about the payments that are due?
You see that quite a few of these payments are made in connection with Christmas event. If you look at the list, you can see.
Okay, was that the hand up there? No? No, okay, lovely. Okay.
Sorry, there's one. It just says, it might just be a thingy, a typo. Higher fund fair limited, it says 20p.
Higher fund fair. 7005 is 20
pence. I don't know whether that was a correction from another invoice.
Hi, are you back? I think you're on mute at the moment.
I don't think you can hear me. No.
She's definitely on that.
We need to turn the speakers off.
Is it our volume?
Above.
I could hear her before.
It's fine. You have to just phone me on my phone. I can probably speak.
Right, okay. Let me just.
I will find out about.
It could be a typo as well.
I don't think it'll be a typo, but what it might be is an extra. It might be a correction from another invoice. 20p. But I will try and find out and come back to you.
So sorry about the technology this evening. Not normally like this, but we'll try and get it sorted for the future. Was that available on the phone or not?
I can probably get on the phone if you want to.
I just wanted her to have the option to say anything and she wanted to. I think it's a bit true.
Probably hear about them there.
Yeah, John.
Right, you are now live in the meeting room.
Right. So they can hear.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to say anything?
No, I'm absolutely. So we're still talking about the figures to you.
Yeah. No, we've gone to the next item.
It's page 25. There's a payment of 20p to hire a funfair limited, which has been which is on the system. Halfway down.
Did you hear that?
Page 25.
No, I'm really struggling here. I don't know what's.
Don't worry, you can.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, we can pick it up later. That's fine.
I'm so frustrated.
Don't worry.
Sorry.
We'll speak later, Ali. It's fine.
Okay. Sorry about the technology. It normally works. So everyone happy with that issue? The clerk will go back and we'll have a response. Okay, next item, 10.3, to ratify use of delegated powers by officers since the last meeting. 10.3.1, procurement from Stenton OB Architects of 3D images for the proposed refurbishment of the Sycamore building of £150. Officer delegated consultation with the Vice Chair and the Chair of Finance and Governance Committee on the grounds of urgency. Any member wish to discuss that at this point or happy to note? Everyone happy to note? Noted. Thank you. Item 10.3.2, procurement of detailed EPC calculations by Engineering Services Partnership in the sum of £660. Officer delegated powers use the consultation with the Chair, the Vice Chair and the Chair of Finance Government Committee on the grounds of urgency. Any comments or questions? Or everybody happy to note? Noted. Thank you. Item 3, procurement of individual value engineering works and associated input as approved by full council. Structural engineer, £220. Quantity surveyor, £3,500, which includes a sum for final pre-tender revaluation of specification, and architect, £2,020. Officer delegated powers in consultation with the Sycamore Building Steering Group at a meeting on the 4th of November 2024, at which the Chair, the Vice Chair and the Chair of Finance Committee were also present on the grounds of urgency. Any comments or questions in relation to that? Or everybody happy to note? Noted, thank you. We go on to the next item of the agenda, which is to seek the approval of the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government to apply for a public works loan board of £750,000 over a borrowing term of 40 years for the Town Council's Sycamore Buildings refurbishment project. The annual loan repayments will come to £49,000 per year, and that is in the budget. It's not intended to increase the council tax preset for the purpose of the loan repayments. So also attached to your pack this evening are a schedule of the work summary, the estimated running costs of Sycamore Hall, the consultation report that we went out to community consultation, and a copy of the floor plan. Do any members have any questions in relation to the application for the loan of up to £750,000? And from my, if you could correct me, I believe that we put in a funding application of £750,000, and that, if you like, becomes our credit limit. But if we don't need £750,000, we don't have to draw it down.
No, it can be drawn down in tranches, and actually it's quite a delicate balancing act deciding how much to draw down, because obviously the interest rates change daily, but there's no requirement to draw it all down. But that's the amount that council previously agreed they wished to consider to the funding application. So this is the formal resolution to seek approval from the Secretary of State. If we get approval, then there has to be a separate loan application to the Public Works Loan Board. So this is just stage one.
Anyone got any questions? Okay, so we have, I think we have taken responsibility for this building over 2 years ago, and we have made many decisions on why we think this building is important, and this building actually needs to be fully refurbished, so it is of use to the community for, you know, the next 40 years. And so I will propose that we seek approval of the Secretary of State through the Public Works Board loan of up to £750,000 over a borrowing term of 40 years in relation to this project. Do I have a second? Okay, so seconded by Richard. All those in favour of the proposal? Okay, anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay, so I believe that that is all councillors, and that was unanimous. And thank you. I think that we're another step forward in this project, so thank you for that. Next item on the agenda is item 12, to receive a response from the Deputy CEO of Milton Keynes City Council to the Town Council's recent resolution on the need for a parking strategy in Bletchley and Fenny, Stratford, and to consider any further actions. So I do believe there is a report in your pack. Clark, is there anything that you wanted to say in relation to this?
No, I haven't anything to say. You'll see in the pack that there is a letter from Tracy O'Donnell, and also she makes reference to the most recent parking presentation, which was given to the Town Deal Board at its last but one meeting. I don't think that parking presentation includes anything that I hadn't previously advised the Town Council of before that meeting took place. So there was nothing new in that consultation, in that presentation. So I have nothing further to.
So does any member have any comments or questions in relation to this? No? Okay, so everybody happy to note this? Thank you, so noted. And we'll go on to the next item of the agenda, which is item 13, to approve a corporate response to the government public consultation on enabling remote attendance and proxy voting at local meetings.
Yes, you will recall that I have sent details about this consultation out to all members, and suggested that members would perhaps like to make individual responses, because the consultation does ask for the specific views of town parish councillors or members of council. But there is also the opportunity to send a corporate response on behalf of this council. The consultation asks questions, first of all, about the proposal for remote attendance. Do you agree with the broad principle of granting local authorities powers to allow remote attendance at formal meetings? The yes or no question. And then if you've answered yes, there are some suggestions about potentially having 2/3 of members in physical attendance, or members should only be able to attend council meetings remotely in exceptional circumstances, such as those who are medically or physically unable to attend, or there should be no limitations placed upon councils with regard to setting arrangements for remote attendance. Bearing in mind this council used remote meetings successfully during the pandemic, and based on what I've heard previously, I would expect that you might agree with the broad principle, but I'm not clear what your position would be on requiring 2/3 of members to be there in physical attendance, or only allowing remote attendance in exceptional circumstances, such as medical emergencies or for reasons of local or national emergencies, or whether there should be no limitation.
Okay. Does any member wish to discuss or debate anything in relation to the consultation? Right.
Well, I know that when in a pandemic it worked quite well, but sometimes things did go wrong with, but that happens like tonight, that things go wrong with technology. But I believe if you're a councillor, you should turn up at meetings to have your say and have your vote. It's easy to sit at home and think, oh yeah, I can't be bothered to go, I'll go remotely. And then you'll find there's more people at home than what there is in the room. So I'm not 100%. Obviously, if you're ill or something like that, or you just can't make it, or for some reason someone's at home not well, then I can understand that. But one off here and there, but not on a regular basis, because you'll probably have the same people on a regular basis sitting at home when the rest of us come out in the cold, the wet and the rain to do our job, what we're elected to do.
Okay. Any other members wish to contribute?
I support Ron 100%, that everyone should attend except in exceptional circumstances. And I think that's, when we're on holiday, we can join then, can't we?
Anybody else want to have express their view? Mitch.
I totally agree as well. I mean, in terms of the face-to-face sort of collaboration we can have in person, it's priceless compared to everybody sort of being behind a screen. Although the only sort of counter argument I put forward is accessibility, and having that option to sign in. I mean, exceptional circumstances. What's the exceptional circumstance? If I had a medical emergency, I was sitting in the hospital, I might forget about my council duties if I've got my arm's chopped off or something like that, But I mean, if you're stuck in traffic or late, I mean, I travel quite a bit for work. Sometimes I've got stuck in London, for example, in the train or whatever, and that option to sign in still means I can sort of participate and also vote as well. But yeah, there has to be restrictions on it, so that, like you said, people aren't sat at home 12 months of the year in that sense. If it's, I don't know, 10% or 20% of meetings, that's, I don't know, I'd say that's like an acceptable figure, not 80% of meetings, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think accessibility is definitely something which there is a benefit of that, without vote remotely.
Any other comments? Okay. For me, I think that I do like to attend meetings. There have been occasions where I have to work abroad and I kind of followed the meeting, or I've texted the clerk what I want to say, but I also, one of the things that I'm concerned about is I think it would be fair to say that our council is severely underrepresented by women. And I worry that having to come to a council meeting, some women may well say, I can't attend because I've got other responsibilities that I cannot cover at home, but I might be able to attend if it was a remote meeting. So I'm actually, I'm generally in favour of having the meeting, of having remote meetings, with a strong preference for people to come in person. But also I think it's, you know, for the individual councillor, you know, to kind of try and get to that meeting however they can. And I would hope that if we were able to support this, that we might get some councillors coming from areas of the community that are severely underrepresented at the moment. So that's kind of my thing.
But on that basis, Chair, if the numbers were changed, that you had a majority of women and fewer men, then the argument would be those women will stay at home.
Yeah.
And in fact, we would have enough. So
Well, it might not only be women,
I hear
but
what you're
I think I was trying to make a general point that, like, I know that some people might, and it could be men or women, or you know, people who don't identify, who could have a situation where they could not attend a meeting, but they could attend a meeting.
Exceptions.
So I think, so for it, we are actually contributing to a consultation. My understanding is that the thing that we're being consulted on is whether we support a change in the law to allow the meetings, and then it would be down to this council, if that was done, to set its own policy in accordance with any legislation. So
I think there are specific questions. So the first question is, do you agree with the broad principle of granting local authorities powers to allow remote attendance at formal meetings? Yes or no?
yeah, I would probably say yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Secondly, if you answered yes, should there be at least 2/3 of members in physical attendance at any formal meeting? Yes or no?
Yes.
So was that 2/3 of the members present, of members attending, or 2/3 of the whole membership?
It says any formal meeting allowing remote attendance should have at least 2/3 of members in physical attendance. I take that to mean 2/3 of the entire committee or council. So that is quite restrictive because we often don't have 2/3 present anyway. But that's one box you can tick. You can tick a box that says members should only be able to attend council meetings remotely in exceptional circumstances, such as those who are medically or physically unable to attend or for reasons of local or natural emergencies. And then the third option, there should be no limitations placed upon councils with regard to setting arrangements for remote attendance, up to and including full remote attendance. Or there's a free text box in which you can say whatever you want to say.
So the question for me is, do we want is it the Ministry of Housing, Local Government and Communities to decide for us what our policy is, or do we want to decide it ourselves? So in that case, if we want in responding to this consultation, we should either say there should be no limitations, or we go item D, the council should be able to set its own policy for what it should be done, and voted for by majority of council.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, so it's C or D, the last one.
Yeah.
Then the next one for elected members. Then, if this is a tricky one, if you're responding to this consultation on behalf of a council, as we will be doing, what proportion of the council's current elected members are likely to seek to attend council meetings remotely over the course of a year? So less than 10%, more than 10%, but less than 50%, more than 50%, but less than 90%, more than 90%, but you know, how many? I guess the question is, what do people think they do? Would they attend remotely less than 10% of the time?
Oh, it's like
Yeah.
10%, yeah. I mean, so
Is that agreed?
Okay, does everyone agree with that, less than 10%?
Yeah.
Got wife and the caravan, Keith? Got wife and the caravan?
Do you think there should be limitations placed on the number of fully remote meetings? If you're having fully remote meetings, should there be a limitation on the number of fully remote meetings councils should be able to hold? Should you be able to have full remote attendance at up to half the meetings in a 12-month period? Or should you only have the flexibility to change a meeting from in-person to online due to exceptional or unforeseen circumstances?
So this is like everybody remote, sorry.
I would say that this should be defined within our own policy.
I mean, so currently, all committee meetings and council meetings must be held in public, but a steering group or a working group, they can be held online. So very often the buildings committee is held during the day. I'll be at work and I will join remotely. And I kind of sit there and think that's working. I don't really think
that's not a formal meeting though.
No.
That's an informal meeting.
But I sit there and kind of think I wouldn't want to have remote only. Yeah.
So
Okay.
again, councils should set their own.
Councils should set their own policies. Yeah.
Yep.
This last one is a difficult one. Council should be required to publish a list of attendees joining the meeting remotely and give notice if a meeting is being held with full remote attendance. How you know that in advance is a mystery to me as a part. I don't know how you'd know that everyone's coming remotely.
You do in attendance, right?
Well, you would always publish the attendance
Yeah.
anyway.
So we would know. I mean,
We wouldn't know after the event, but you wouldn't know
after
in
the
advance.
event, yeah. I think what they're asking is on a, maybe after the event, what's your percentage like? Because you wouldn't know before.
No, I mean, we would always do that.
Yeah.
Option B again.
Yes, you can make your own arrangements.
Yeah,
You can
probably
make your own arrangements. Is that what you prefer for that one? And then, given that you're in favour of having some remote attendees, there are statements that you have to use to support your point of view. So you have to say, do you agree with these statements? You think remote attendance should be considered because it's a positive modernising measure?
Yes.
Yes.
It would likely increase the diversity of people willing and able to stand for election.
Yes.
Councils would be more resilient in the event of local or national emergencies.
Yes.
Any other reasons for supporting it? Okay.
What was any of the reasons?
And then the last questions are about proxy voting. In addition to provisions allowing for remote attendance, do you consider it would be helpful to introduce proxy voting? Yes, no, or unsure?
I say no.
So I would only be willing to do so if it was not given through another councillor and it was like, say, for instance, it was through Modern Gov, the person had read their papers and they kind of had a button and so actually we knew it was from them.
I wouldn't be in favour of that, because you could then become, you wouldn't necessarily be open to what's going on in the meeting, and it could therefore be predetermined before you come to the meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
I get that point.
So I would be against proxy.
Okay, so are we saying we're not in favour of proxy voting?
Yeah.
Anybody else want to say anything? Not in favour of proxy voting.
So that means all the other questions are not relevant. Sorry, that's not
I apologise, but I do.
Thank you. So next item on the agenda is to approve the draft annual resident survey, which is going to be run from the 15th of November to the 7th of January 2025. And I believe that it has been tabled and is before you.
If you haven't got a copy, there is nothing. So this is very similar to last year's. We've just changed the wording to include concerned about literal cleanliness of graffiti in the town centre, because that's something that came up within the Community and Environment Committee earlier. So we've added that question in, and we have slightly changed the wording of the question of the precept, because even though we put an explanation of what the precept was last year, we still had feedback that people didn't understand what it was.
No. Is there any comments? No, this is going to go out to members of the public. So what the officers are asking for is, does anybody have had a feel about the questionnaire? Is there anything that they have? What's the anything that they're concerned about? Any comments or questions from members? So we're all happy with this survey?
My only comment would be some of the questions may not be relevant for Eton Leeds, given that some of the landscaping etc. is provided by the builders.
Their landscaping doesn't cover any of the areas completely, because it's only land that's owned by Milton Keynes City Council, or land that's owned by us, so it's not everywhere for anyone.
Okay.
Yeah, we did contemplate trying to provide within the question a list of landscapes that isn't included, and it was just too difficult.
It's worth filtering the results after, to be honest. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So all members happy to accept the survey? Yes. All those in favour? Thank you. Okay. And now on the final agenda item, to see, oh, sorry, have I skipped something? Sorry, I have 15. To review a first draft of the Town Council budget for 2025-2026 and to note provisional information about the tax base for 2025 to 2026. Is there anything you want to say about this?
I think Alison probably would have wanted to speak to this if she'd been able.
Oh, we heard you.
Oh, yeah, good evening. Finally. Yeah, so am I okay to speak, Chair?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so obviously this is just a first draft of the budget, and I imagine the clerk's going to tell you that obviously the Community Environment Committee haven't looked at this in detail, neither has the Finance and Governance, so there will still be some amendments to make to it. I'd just like to also point out that the deprivation grant for Milton Keynes Council has reduced substantially for next year, from 63,000 we received this financial year, and it's down to just under 40,000 for next year. However, we have had a provisional tax base figure, so our number of equivalent Band D properties at the moment is just over 6,100, and that's potentially going to increase to 6,400, which is beneficial to us as a parish. So if that wasn't the case, then looking at current budget as it stands now, we'd be looking at about a 6% increase on precept to cover our current services. But as it stands, with the increase in the tax base, we're only looking at about 1% at the moment.
I would like to also make some comments, if that's possible,
yeah.
Please. So the tax base has gone up, and the tax base will go up next year. The tax base will not necessarily go up every year. There's been an assumption by the council that the tax base will always go up. That's not necessarily the case. So we need to sort of be mindful of that. And the deprivation grant, I think, will continue to decrease. Maybe not immediately, but I don't think there's any guarantee, and I've said this all along, I don't think there's any guarantee that we'll get that grant funding any year. So that should be taken into consideration in planning for the future.
Can I just come in there and just reinforce your point? My understanding is all of the major development sites that we had in Bletchley and Fenny, Stratford, so Eton Leeds, I believe, is coming to the end of its development.
Yeah.
And Newton Leeds is coming to the end, it has finished its development, although they found space for another 82 dwellings in kind of Newton Leeds, which is across the other side of our car park and also that way as well. But I suppose what I'm saying is any kind of big development here and any big increases in tax base aren't going to happen because there is a real lack of development sites within our area now.
I think we're looking at 1,000 additional dwellings between now and, well, that's what's been calculated for the local plan, taking us to 2050. So it's not going to increase at the rate it's been increasing, potentially. The other point that I'd like to make is that the national insurance, the increase in the national insurance contribution will have quite a big impact on the staff budget. And the Employment Policy Committee has had a look at the staff budget and is going to look at it again later this month. Just as the Community and Environment Committee will be looking at the budget again later this month, and any recommendations from those two committees need to go to Finance and Governance in December, 12th of December, I think it is, because that's when the second draft of the budget is going to be scrutinised. So I do think it's very important for all councillors to look at all aspects of the budget and consider what's important going forward. We spent quite a lot on community events this year, and I do think we need to, for example, just some examples, I do think we need to think about whether that is the right way to spend money going forward. We're due to re-procure the Christmas lights contract, which is the 3-year contract, which this is the 3rd year of that 3-year contract. There'll be an increase if we deliver to the same standard next year. That will obviously be more expensive because that was a 3-year contract based on the prices 3 years ago. I have asked Will to look into a potential 1-year extension to that contract, but that is not necessarily the best thing going forward because you're going to have to renew at some point. But that's something for the committee to consider. And there's the other thing that we've got to bear in mind is that with the buildings project, we will be using a substantial part of our reserves, and therefore we will not be having the interest coming in on reserves that we've had in recent years. So it really is a year when it's really important to scrutinise every line of the budget and think really carefully about what the town council really wants to do and deliver for the community. It's important every year, but I think it's particularly important this year. If anyone's got any questions at any stage, both Alison and I are happy to answer any questions about the budget outside council meetings, talk people through it, explain the detail of it, because we'd much rather people understood it and knew what they were looking at when they come to make a decision on approving the budget in January.
Any comments or questions from members? No. So we will note that and sure that it will be discussed at Finance and Governance and come back to council.
It will come back in January.
It will come back in January. Thanks very much. Okay, so we go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the last item, to receive a clerk's report. Ali, thank you for attending remotely for the meeting. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 16, to receive a clerk's report on progress with the town deal and public consultation following the recent town deal board meeting on last Friday.
Yes, I'm sorry I haven't produced a written report. I'm afraid time was against me and there were some of the issues that popped up yesterday and today. And there's a limit to what I can disclose today anyway. But the statutory consultation that was done, the non-statutory consultation that was done over the summer on Queensway and Aylesbury Street and over and with regards to Saxon Street, the change to Saxon Street, the reports, the initial findings from that consultation were reported to the board on Friday. And just to summarise, there will be nothing that surprises this council in terms of the findings on Queensway and Aylesbury Street. the majority of people responded in a positive way to the proposals that were being put forward. And I understand that work will continue on those proposals. And it's expected that work on Aylesbury Street will start towards the end of next year, and Queensway project will be delivered at the beginning of 2026. With regards to Saxon Street, responses were more mixed, and so there's going to be a revisiting. At this stage, I can't say any more about that because the work has yet to be done. But there is another meeting of the town deal board in December, and there will be more in the public domain after that meeting. Also, just to mention that East West Rail was mentioned at the town deal meeting on Friday, and again, we've had the announcement about the East West Rail. There is still no funding for an eastern entrance, as we understand it, but that it isn't ruled out for the future. It's still an aspiration that's there in everyone's plan, but at this stage, there's no definite funding for an east-west, for an eastern entrance to the station. But the statutory consultation on the non-statutory consultation on East West Rail starts on 14th, which is Thursday. So, you know, it's up to everybody to participate in that, and it will be followed by a statutory consultation at the end of next year.
The one that for us is not till next year, isn't it? Masonic. Right.
Yeah,
and it's not till January.
I think it's not till January. No, there's a whole list of.
Yeah, I did look at the dates. I think we went till near the
I think
end.
it's right at the end. It's a 15-week consultation, I think. Yeah, 15th of January at the Masonic Centre.
If they've not got the proposal to put an eastern entrance on the train station, what's the point of them doing that scheme and putting a bus stop along that side?
They're pausing it. They're pausing it.
They're pausing it.
Well, they're separate projects, because the entrance to the railway station would be a railway. The entrance to the railway station would require the cooperation of East West Rail and Network Rail, and funding would need to be provided for that. The funding within the town deal was never for an eastern entrance.
No, I understand that.
So as I say, I think that they're going to look again at the Saxon Street proposals, and I think we'll hear more about that in the near future. I would quite like to introduce my colleague Sam Leonard, who is the comms officer, the new comms officer for the town deal board, and has just come along to observe the town council meeting and to hear what everyone has to say, and she will be delivering communications about the town deal board decisions and so on and so forth in the near future. So she might be better equipped than me to answer any questions on comments.
I can comment on the entrance.
Yes, sir.
I have sat in meetings with the East West, with all the stakeholders to do with the East West Rail, obviously with Bletchley station. Team at the council, Paul Shinkling, part of the highways for Saxon Street proposals. He's got that team. That East West Rail have obviously got a massive project going on. I've seen 4 options for the platform, stairs. But the council, led by Paul Shinkling in highways, is always plugging in that whatever they do, whatever option they do, it has to be future-proofed for the potential of an eastern entrance. And we need to join that thinking between us as the council and East West Rail. So there are meetings that take place that I've just been to one, but they will be ongoing and it will be championed all the way. But the clerks exactly are in the service funding for it at the moment. And it will be an East West Rail who will come from them and go on back in here.
I do know there's a lot of work, and had Councillor Hume not had to be there, he might have got councillor Higgins. Wanted to raise this, but yeah.
I was going to say, garden ponds. It's always been a situation in the community about the town deal communication and getting information out.
Yeah.
Some of the residents and stuff like that. A big part of the residents don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So how can we reach different sectors of our community and explain what's going on as well? I mean, we know things now.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of questions flying about what's going on, timeline, what's happening. We've seen continually proposal for, Queensway, what's going on there, within We've seen all that.
Yeah.
Just more communication would be key.
Yes.
Not just through the town council, but hitting certain communities as well.
Yes. Well, I joined in on September the 18th, and probably should have joined 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I see that there is, if we're looking at the end where all the funds have to be committed by March 2026, which may, the work won't be done by then, it will continue beyond that, but the funds have to be committed. There is 15 months left to that point. And I'm putting in place a number of initiatives, communication initiatives. The first one, working with Delia and West Bletchley, I've proposed to work with support and having a drop-in session at each, the parish council and the town council on Mondays from 2 till 4. Each come to the Sycamore House, Frank Moran Centre, West Bletchley offices, and I'll be there and I'll have some literature, but if I can answer the question, I will. So people come and talk to me, but I will be pounding the pavements. I have pounded the pavements with the business narrative and working with Suki Gill on the business investment side and the grant scheme. So yeah, there are a number of initiatives that will be put in place. So I'm the person that should be getting the info out there. But I must say that, like, probably well aware of it more than I am. So I come from the private sector, so it's really, and this is why I wanted to come today. I wanted to tonight. I wanted to see, I could have gone online, but I want to see how it happens. This is my first town council. I think I've been to my local parish. But things happen slowly. So it's not that things aren't being said, it's that they aren't happening yet in some cases. So it's a long programme. You've got the funding in 2021, 2020. It's just been such a long process. It's slow.
I mean, I get it. I'm in private sector myself. Sometimes we get members of the public in our ear.
Yes.
And they've got an expectation of how this town services can change.
Yeah.
And yes, you can only give out information when you can, but
yeah,
something's better than nothing.
Yes.
And sometimes there's been nothing at all.
Definitely.
So
Well, my
perception of what's going on is nothing perfect.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think my plans come to fruition. They'll be more visible. I want to use the environment for messaging. I want all the empty buildings and the stores and the shops that are vacant now. We can I can use them to message about what's happening. Yeah, I mean timelines I want a live timeline that's available online because things will move, as we all know.
That's something that people, when's it happening, when's it happening, and we can't say because we don't know.
No, but you can point them to, we have an email box, info at, and we look at that daily and get some members of the public messaging, but hopefully I'm visible as well as you know, accessible.
Brilliant.
So,
Thanks very much for coming. I'm sure that many members have echoed some of the comments that have been made. I think anything that we can do to get those messages out are good things. And anything that the town council can do to support you in kind of those messages, because we also maybe have a closer relationship with the community. I'm sure that we'd be happy to help with. Yes? Okay. It's now 9 o'clock. I'll bring the meeting to a close. For those members of the public that are joining us via our YouTube channel, thank you for joining us this evening and good night.